Welcome to the blind battle of the 13-year-old bourbons. I'm your host Sam, and this is Whiskey and SV. All right, so tonight is going to be a super duper exciting episode because I have with me three of the most sought after whiskeys of this year, and I'm going to blind them. So the first is the Baker's 13, which is a Jim Beam product. I actually acquired this in a trade. It is 107 proof, which is 53.5%. It is the batch 2, which is the 2023 version. I think you can see uh, in this. I don't know if that's visible or not. Maybe I'll throw a picture of it later. Um, so this particular uh, bottle I got in a trade, but I actually got a backup of it, which is signed by Freddie No at the Jim Beam Distillery when we did our recent trip to Kentucky. Um, uh, Another interesting thing that may be interesting for me, not for you, is I have the original one. So the new one doesn't come with a box, but the old one that came out in 2019 came in this really cool box. Um, and unfortunately, mine has a little bit of a, I don't know if that's normal or not. Anyways, so it came in a really cool box, but it's exactly the same looking bottle. The only difference is on here it says release date 2019. So yeah, so basically I think it came out sometime in 2019, and then because of COVID, there wasn't any other versions until 2023, which is this new bottling. The first bottling is way too expensive in secondary, so I don't think I'm going to open it anytime soon. But I'm happy to open this as I have a backup. You know my shtick with being stingy with stuff that I don't have backups of. Not always, but sometimes. Anyway, so yeah, that's the first bourbon here. The second one is the Russell's 13, which has been on my channel before. I believe this one is batch 2. Um, that means I think I explained what the way you know what that is before. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, I'm pretty sure this is batch 2. So this is a $150 MSRP. By the way, this one is $140 MSRP, but it's going in secondary for closer to like 200, 220 ish. The Russell's 13, as you know, is $150 now, and it is going for around 250 to 300 in secondary. This one is 57.4% ABV, so it does have a advantage in terms of the ABV. Last but not least, the cheapest one here, but the one that I am really thinking is probably going to be the best one, just based on my biases, is the Elijah Craig C923, batch C923, which is the most recent batch of Elijah Craig. This one is being touted as the potential to be one of the best bourbons of the year. It is the first time that is more than 12 years. It is 13 years and 7 months. So it's actually like theoretically the oldest bourbon here. Although I'm pretty sure both of these products have older bourbon in them as well. And the age statement just basically means it's the youngest bourbon that is in there. But this one is at 66.5% ABV, so it's a full 13% more alcohol by percentage points by volume than the first one. So it should be obvious, even not taking into account the alcohol. I'm pretty sure it's going to be obvious just from the aromas and all the confectionery notes that I get in there. So this one is sort of a fresh crack. I cracked it earlier today. You can see it's already a good way down. It's because I poured some samples for some friends. But yeah, so let's go ahead and pour out half ounces as usual. I will be using my black Glencairns today. They're not my favorite for tastings, but I think these are sufficiently different in color that it would be just unfair for me um, to not have that. Having said that, I think these are going to be, the ABV difference is so large that I would be very surprised if I cannot tell. So um, why is this number 2? Number 1. Okay, so we'll put number 1 as the Baker's 13. Put that up there. We'll not reuse that. Okay. In the second one, we'll put the Russell's 13. Make sure these are nicely visible. That is number 2. And last but not least, we'll do the Elijah Craig batch C923. By the way, the Elijah Craig C923 is theoretically only $76.99. That's the newest MSRP. I think I got this one using some coupon from Total Wine for $10 cheaper than that. So it is a total insane bargain. So, well, the thing is, you cannot obviously find it at MSRP very easily, but still, much more so than these two. It's both more available and not as expensive in secondary. Okay, so let's let this spin, and yeah, I'm super excited to kind of know which one I prefer, because the reality is that I am actually currently considering buying even more Elijah Craigs. I have 2 or 3 backups. I have a backup of, or maybe a couple of backups of the Baker's 13 actually, and I do have some backups of the Russell Reserve 13 as well. But the one that is easy to acquire at close to MSRP, around $85 to $90, is the Elijah Craig C923, and I just want to see if the Elijah Craig C923 beats these 2 other more expensive bourbons. I should definitely back up more. So yeah. Okay, so let's just put this aside and get started. As usual, the way we'll do this is I will nose them first, and I'll give some notes, and then I'll go back and I'll taste and provide some notes, and then I'll give my ranking and my guess about which is which, and we'll go from there. Okay, cool. So let's start by this first one. Okay, straight away I'm getting a bit of a mineral and somewhat of a peanutty character on this one. I mean, of course there's the vanilla and the caramel, but so this leads me to believe it's probably the Baker's 13. I think the Beam products have that slight peanutty note on the nose. That's a pretty decent marker of what they are. Now, I will have to taste it to be sure, but just on the nose, I think that's what it comes across. Okay, let's go for the second one. Much more fruity, this one. Yeah, somewhat confectionery, much more fruity. Wow, this one is extremely confectionery. It's like super syrupy. Yeah, just lots of syrup, and it's like a very like creme brulee or a creamy cake, just fresh baked goods. Yeah, so on the nose, I think by far my favorite is this one, and I believe it is the Elijah Craig, but I'm not sure. This one is probably second best, and I'm guessing it's the Russell's 13. This is very good, but yeah, there's it's slightly lacking compared to the other two. It's just it's complex, but it's just the notes are not something that well, they're not my favorites for sure, because I just really enjoy like the confectionery type notes in a bourbon. Okay, righto. So probably the way we have them is a good way to actually taste them. So we'll just start by the one what I think is the Baker's 13, and let's see how that goes. Yeah, so pretty sure that's the Baker's 13. There's I think Jim Beam products have a very distinct nutty note that's on the nose it's kind of like peanuts, but then on the palate it translates to more like of a bitter almond type note. It's not unpleasant at all. It's actually quite nice, but it is quite distinct. So either you like it or you don't, and I think they are quite distinct in flavor. There's obviously some spices, but it does die down pretty quickly, despite being 53.5%, which is not a slouch, but it's definitely not super lasting either, because yeah, it's just yeah, it could, I guess it could be more concentrated. So, but what it leaves after the fact is kind of this nutty note. It's like if you have a sort of a let's say I don't know if this exists, but like an almond flavored coffee, not coffee, maybe latte. Yeah, there's this nutty note that lingers. Okay, let's go to the second one, which I believe is the Russell Reserve 13. But okay, trade away a lot more ABV. Translates to um, bolder flavor, a little bit more burn, well, a lot more spices. So burn both from the ABV, from the alcohol, from the ethanol, and from the spices, like just lots of spiciness. Um, there's some like cherry notes. You know, it's a very um, I would say fruity kind of bourbon with lots of dark cherry and kind of like dark kind of berry notes, but not like sherry dark. You know, it's more like a sherry I think goes more towards like prune juice, sultanas, things like that. This is more like, I guess, cherry syrup, or something, that cherry bitters, that would go into a drink or something like that. But on the nose, it's kind of lively. Um, Another marker for me for Russell Reserve is a significant amount of mineral notes. It's kind of like if you think about a kind of a musty cellar with like limestone. Uh, I just get that type of a note in most Russell Reserves. Pretty pleasant. I like that a lot. I think I would prefer. I think I prefer this to the first one. Um, it's just the extra ABV plus the overall like profile of flavors is kind of like more in tune with what I enjoy. Okay, let's go to the last one, which I'm pretty sure has to be the Elijah Craig. Now, um, even from the first sip to this sip, this has changed quite a bit. Again, I'm not a big fan of these black Glencairns. I feel like they distort the smell somehow, and I don't know what it is about them, but they just tend to distort the smells a little bit. So let's go to a palate and see if you can tell from the palate. Oh, that's really good. I think Elijah Craig has a bit more of a rye character to it. That's not present in the other two. Um, it is when you smell it, you can also like kind of smell the toasted oak. It's just like the oak is pretty present on the nose. I think this is my favorite nose. I hope this is the Elijah Craig. It could be the Russell 13. It's definitely not the Baker's. I'm pretty sure of that. But um, this is by far my favorite. Yeah, this is just a perfect bourbon. At the end, there's this kind of like musty note. Um, all the flavors are so concentrated and they just linger on and on. Um, I don't know how to describe it. It's just so good, super enjoyable. Okay, let's say let's talk about how much better I think this is than the other two. Um, Honestly, I think if I give this like a 10, just for the sake of argument, this is like a 9.5. This is like maybe a 9. So, they're all pretty close, I would say, but there is a clear distinction in terms of my preference. Um, and in terms of the finish, yeah, for sure there's just no contest. I think number 3 is that's really good as well. Yeah. I don't know. I think between these two, um, Maybe I should be like a 10, maybe a 9.8. This one will have to be lower. Yeah, clearly much lower ABV. And now the oak is coming out a lot more in all of them because I think the rest of my palate is burnt. So, anyways, I'm gonna stop there because it's just gonna get messy. But okay, let's do the reveal and see. Let's see if I was right about them. Okay, so the first one should be Baker's 13, which is the number one. Yes, correct. So this is Baker's 13. Great. Let's go to number two. Is it the Russells? Oh, it's not. Wow, this is the Elijah Craig. Oh wow, okay. And number two is the Russell's Reserve. Number two is the Russell's Reserve. Okay, so there you have it, folks. I think I talked myself into thinking that the first of all I got the notes off, right? Because I thought the Russell's I thought the more fruity one was the Russell's one, and I thought the more rye forward one and the confectionery one is Elijah Craig, but it turned out to be the opposite. I do think they're pretty close in terms of preference. I did edge out the Russell's Reserve at very significant at the start, but maybe less so after a sip. So yeah, I guess this means I should try to get more Russell's 13s. It's expensive and hard to get though, so I think still as a considering the I can acquire easily the C923 at maybe a third of the cost, definitely half of the cost, but probably more realistic a third of the cost of the Russell's 13. I would take that any day because it's just an amazing pour for the price, and not just for the price, just in general. But that Russell's 13 is quite spectacular. Okay, so blinds don't lie, or maybe they do. I don't know. I should do this again. I think it's worth doing this again. But the Baker's 13, pretty good, but just doesn't stand up to the other two. Russell's 13, still the king. C923, despite all the hype in my head, came second today, but pretty close to the top. There you have it, folks. Hope you enjoyed that episode. I certainly have fun making it, so I hope to see you in the next episode. Take care and see you next time.